So here's the question. When do you think it's appropriate to start splitting the bill on dates?
I am more than happy to go Dutch. I believe in equality for all, so I like the yin and the yang of a guy paying sometimes, I'll pay sometimes. It kind of sets the tone for a relationship, and, you know, I got your back, you got my back. Having said that, if it is the first date, he better offer to pay or there will not be a second date.
Listen to all of that applause after what she said. He better offer to pay for the first date, or there will not be a second date. I thought you said you were all for equality. That's not equal. If it were equal, then you would have to pay for at least some of the first dates. It's astounding to hear women say this and have everyone openly agree, when I assure you that these same women would say they hate traditional roles and they would lose their minds if a man said, I don't mind doing a couple of chores around the house, but if a woman doesn't cook, she won't get a second date. In fact, guess what? The woman who said this, Kat Sadler, is a hardcore feminist who did an interview last year where she complained that men don't do nearly as much housework as women do, yet she expects men to always pay for the first date. During the interview, Kat and the host claimed that women were the default parent when stuff needed to be cleaned or problems with the kids come up. Well, yeah, that's why men pay for things like dates. It's a trade-off so that each person is equally contributing to the relationship. So Kat is not for equality. What she wants is all the benefits of traditionalism and all the benefits of being a modern woman, but wants none of the cost and none of the responsibilities. This is one of the many reasons why men do not want to get married. Men are quite tired of all the double standards and the lack of contribution that has become mainstream and is promoted in the mainstream. Anyway, somebody sent me this as a Facebook story link, which is why it looks like it was recorded for a cell phone instead of it being full screen. However, I thought it would make a fine addition to the great Steve Harvey saga. Let's get into it, but first, if you like the content you see and you would like to support this channel, then consider sending a donation to help keep this channel independent from the tech giants. Viewer support is a big part of what keeps this channel running, so if you would like to donate, then you can do so with PayPal, Patreon, or Subscribestar, and you can find all of those links in the description. With that said, let's continue.
I mean, I feel like it just depends on the delivery, right?
Yes.
Like if the check comes and he looks over at me like,
Yeah.
then sir, you need to go ahead and put down on this and I'm gonna go. Never to be seen again.
Listen to the complete arrogance of that statement. If he even looks at me when the check comes, I'm going to say, how dare you? How dare you suggest that a woman pay for a date? I am so offended that you need to pay for this date, and I assure you, there won't be a second one. Oh, so he still has to pay. He's not going to get the second date he wants, so why should you get what you want? At that point, the guy should just excuse himself to the restroom and leave her with the bill. Welcome to equality. Women have to decide. Do they want to be modern or do they want to be traditional? You don't get to claim equality and then demand special privileges. Not to say that having the man pay for the date is wrong. I think if you asked, most men would be okay with that and acting traditional, provided that women upheld their traditional roles too. If you expect me to be able to change your tire, then I expect you to be able to sew a button into my suit. I've said it on many other occasions. The world doesn't need two people who can change tires. There are other important jobs that need to be done, and changing a single tire doesn't require two people. That's what men are unhappy about. They're upholding their traditional role, but getting nothing in return. However, take a look at this. I did some research, and here's what I found. The one who just spoke is Bitchute Kelly. She is a pop singer, 34 years old, single, never married. In the most recent relationship I could find, Bitchute cheated on the guy. The first girl who spoke is Kat Sadler, 46, worked for Entertainment News, married twice, divorced twice, has 2 sons, and currently is unmarried. Clearly, their ideas and attitudes are working for them.
In addition to that part of the conversation, it needs to be made clear to men that women don't owe you when you take us to dinner.
Yes.
Just because you buy me dinner, just because you paid the valet, doesn't mean I need to go home with you.
I get what she's saying, but the entitled way she says it shows that she has very little appreciation for men who do stuff for her when it comes to a date. This "I don't owe you anything" attitude is quite prevalent in modern women, and that shows up in how they treat men on dates. I mean, you don't have to go home with him, but of course you owe him something in return if he is driving you to the venue, paying for the valet, and paying for the meal. If someone buys you a meal, you owe them polite company, which means that while you are on a date, you should not be on your phone texting someone else. It also means that you say thank you when the date is over and show your appreciation even if you have no desire to continue the relationship. If you aren't willing to at least do that, then don't go on the date. This is common etiquette. Anytime someone buys you lunch, dinner, or whatever, you owe them that. Whether it's a friend, a coworker, your parents, or for a relationship, etc., they had to work for that money to pay for that meal that you're eating. Some of them much harder than others. I mean, think about it. If you're young and going on a $40 date, you probably had to work 2, 3, 4 hours to make that $40. Not only that, but you had to ask her out, you had to plan the date, and you had to drive. How many of you guys have been on dates where a woman is just looking for a free meal? I assure you that this ungrateful behavior is so common that any guy who has gone on dates with just a handful of different women has been treated like this at least once, if not multiple times. There are many women out there who make a business out of constantly collecting gifts from men they have no intention of being in a relationship with. That happens all the time in bars with free drinks. In fact, there are tons of women out there who recruit men who like them into the friend zone so that those men will do things for them for free. For example, if she needs help moving or needs her car fixed and doesn't have money, she will call one of her simps. As a responsible man, you don't have time for that. You should be busy working on your own projects or helping people who will actually return the favor. As for women, they know why the guys are doing stuff for them for free. They know why guys are buying them drinks. They know why guys get them gifts or buy them dinner. If they don't like the guy and they don't intend to start a relationship, then they should do the moral thing and not accept the gifts.
And I think that's why so many women still want to pay, because you don't want to be bought. You want to
because you don't want the
yourself
perception of the obligation.
Exactly.
Because
I am not for sale.
If you can't be bought, then stop acting like it. This whole segment completely ignores the actual behavior of women. They are doing a behavior that leads to a specific outcome, and then they are complaining about that outcome. How many of you have batted your eyes and were nice to a guy that you didn't like in order to get a free drink? When you do that, you are implying that if he buys you the drink, you will go out with him or you will go home with him. If you don't want guys thinking that you can be bought, then stop using your appearance to collect free stuff from guys that you don't like. These women want all the benefits of traditionalism, but don't want any of the cost. Look, if you want to be a modern woman who believes in equality, then start asking guys out on dates. How about you deal with a rejection, you plan all the dates, and you pay for everything? I don't see women doing any of that. Maybe a small percentage will, but that's not the general trend. Look at all the women on this show who are saying that they won't date a guy who makes them do that. But don't take my word for it. Take it from the master, Steve Harvey.
This is a real teaching moment for men. You were born to be a provider. You were born to put a woman on a pedestal and treat her like a queen. That's your job as a man. Now, if you don't want the job, go do something else. It's an honor to take a woman out.
Hey.
That is true. That is true.
It's an honor to take a woman out. Women are queens, and you were born to provide for them. That's your job as a man. Did any of them disagree with that? No, they said it was true. They all clapped and cheered when he said that a man should pay for everything. They are telling you what they want, and they are telling you that they don't actually believe in feminist equality, even though they say they do.
Have we done this poor of a job with our young men?
Yeah.
Now, for a second, imagine that you have the exact same audience, but for the sake of argument, let me flip around Steve's statement. What if he said, "Have we done this poor of a job with our young women?" Do you think that all the people in the audience who shouted yes would be okay with Steve criticizing them in the same way that he criticized men. Let me be perfectly clear, though. I am fine with Steve saying all of this. That's called free speech, but I have this strong suspicion that if anyone said the reverse of what he said, they would be canceled for hate speech.
Correct.
Yeah, because nowadays, a lot of times in this situation, the women might be making more money.
Then he need to play in the playground he qualified to play. No, see, that's what you do. No.
Again, listen to the laughter, listen to the clapping, and look how many people agree with what Steve just said. I'm not saying he's wrong, but what I am saying and what I am doing here is using this to point out how wrong feminism is about the things that people actually want. Women clearly do not want modernism when it comes to dating. They like modernism when it means they don't have to do as many chores around the house, but in reality, they want to be asked out. They want to be told where they're having dinner, and they want to have that dinner paid for them. It's just like how feminists are wrong when they say that women don't judge men on their physical attributes. Women judge men on their physical characteristics all the time. How tall is the guy? How much muscle mass does he have? What does his jawline look like? This is actual human behavior. All right, so I have one more clip to show. As you watch this last clip, I want you to think about who Steve is talking to. I'm going to show you the clip, respond to what he's saying, and then we're going to go over who he's actually saying this stuff to and why he's saying it that way.
But let me say this to men. It's the proper thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And it's the way it should be done. Dudes kill me because we got a lot of nerve thinking this thing is 50-50. Because I got news for you, it ain't. They happen to have a skill set that you'll never possess. They can produce another human life.
Okay.
That's nothing you can do can come close to that.
Producing another human being is not a skill set. It's something your body naturally does. You didn't have to practice or achieve anything to attain that ability. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought that the whole point of feminism was to not value women for their body, but to value them for their accomplishments. What he just said is that a man should use his skill set to obtain money to pay for what a woman is born with. Listen to how many women cheered for that. Didn't we start with equality? But really, men bring nothing to the table that's special and valuable? What about that house that you live in that was built by men? What about that cell phone that you like to text on that was invented by a man? What about that freedom you enjoy because men sacrificed their lives? If it wasn't for men inventing and building practically everything, then we would all still be living in caves and trees. I just love how there is zero appreciation for that and zero appreciation for the things that men do for women. Outside of family court, that lack of appreciation and that lack of humbleness is why more and more guys don't want to get married or keep long-term relationships. You aren't dating a woman in that case. You are dating an arrogant abuser who cares more about what she's getting than she cares to show actual appreciation for your contribution. Good people don't do that. Good people point out good things that you have done and appreciate you when you do something for them. Abusive people only point out your faults and constantly bring up the things that you are doing wrong while they talk all about the things that they have done for you. I do everything for you and you do nothing for me. That is a stereotypical line of an abuser. But as I said, I wanted to make note of something here. Before I showed the clip, I asked you to consider who Steve is speaking to. It might be a little confusing because he started out by addressing men, but he isn't speaking to men. Steve is actually addressing women when he says this. He is using a very important communication technique, which is knowing your audience. I may not agree with what he is saying, and I may find holes in his arguments, but that doesn't mean that this technique is ineffective. Steve knows that his audience is mostly women, and if he doesn't say things that appeal to women's interest, they will stop watching. Which is why he said that women are queens, and there is nothing more valuable than the ability to get pregnant. Those are things that women believe, and he is parroting that belief. You can tell what kind of audience someone has based on the talking points or buzzwords they use. Think about it in terms of politics. If a Republican wants to appeal to their base when it comes to economics, then they are going to talk about tax reduction because that's what their base cares about. And if a Democrat wants to appeal to their base when it comes to economics, they're going to talk about wealth inequality. Do not underestimate the value of this tactic. When you are trying to articulate yourself well or create metaphors, it is very important that you give examples that the person listening to you cares about. Otherwise, they won't connect with the idea. Now, that doesn't mean you pander to the audience, which is just parroting their beliefs for clout when you don't actually believe those ideas. But what it does mean is that you spend time figuring out what things are important to different people, and you make your arguments based on that. For example, if I'm trying to make a self-improvement argument to men, I would say that they should improve this thing I'm talking about because it will lead them to more success and money. If I'm making these same self-improvement argument to women, I would say that if you improve this, it will help your children. Men tend to be focused on success, and women tend to be focused on children. And that bears out my viewership. When I talk about success, my audience is almost entirely male. However, when I talk about children, my female audience skyrockets, even though this channel is geared towards men. The way you frame your ideas matters, and the better you get at framing your ideas in a way that lines up with the values of the people who are listening to you, the more effective your arguments will be. If you don't talk about things that people care about, or convince them that the thing you are talking about is in line with what they value, they won't listen. But with that said, I think that's enough for this video. So if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, comment and share. If you would like to support this channel, then you can do so with PayPal, Patreon, or Subscribestar. You can find all those links in the description. Last, if you haven't found me on Bitchute, Twitter, Facebook, or Parler, you can also find those links in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.